Okay, so quickly, these are the formula for the mole that you need to know. So this is Avogadro's number, which is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd power. So keep in mind that you're gonna use this both of these formulas. You're gonna use them kind of in different ways depending on what they're asking you to find. So here in this example, I have to find the number of atoms in 0.500 moles. So since they're giving you moles, you're gonna find atoms. So you're gonna have to think of dimensional analysis. So since 0.500 will be at the top, you must have the same whatever they're giving you has to be at the bottom, so it'll cancel out. So in this case, moles must be at the bottom, and this one is the one that we're going to use. So 0.500 times 6.02 times 10 to the 23 atoms over 1 mole. So the mole signs here cancel out, and you pretty much just have to multiply this number times this quantity, and then that'll give you 3.01 times 10 to the 3. So again, if you're confused, I have 2 more examples right here, but these are pretty much asking for a little bit different things because they're asking for an element in specific. This is oxygen. So how many moles in 28.0 grams of oxygen? So first you draw 28.0, which is what they give you, times 1 mole. Again, if they give you, in this case they're giving you grams, so in this case you actually have to have whatever they're giving you in grams at the bottom and mole at the top, because that's what you're looking for, because grams are going to even cancel out. I didn't draw it here, but pretty much this is going to be the case. Grams, that'll cancel out. So the 16, again, if you're not sure, it comes from the periodic table. It comes from the mass that the oxygen has, so that'll be it. You're gonna end up with 1.75 moles. Now, if you're asking what is the mass of 5.0 moles of iron, then that's a whole different thing, because this time they're giving you moles. So if they're giving you moles, you need to have moles at the bottom. You're gonna use this formula right here. So 5.0 moles times 55.85, which will be the mass of iron, then that over 1 mole, because moles are going to cancel out, that will give you exactly this. And don't forget to use grams per mole, because if you don't use this, our teacher may take off points and we don't want that, okay? Now here, finding the molar mass. To find the molar mass, again, this is pretty simple. They're gonna give you like a compound, like Na, Cl, and sodium chloride, something like that. So what you're gonna do is find the mass of each of these elements. So you have Na right here and chlorine. So you find the mass of each one of these, and then you add them together. If you're given something like, if you're given like a 2Na or Cl, I think you know what to do with that. You just multiply the mass. Like here, if you had 2Na, we just multiply this number, this mass, times 2. And then you would just add that to whatever you have. So just find the mass of an element, and if you have more than one, just multiply that and then add it all together. That's how you find the molar mass. Now we'll go to percent by mass. So this is kind of the formula, or what you should be using for that. So here we have an example. So we have nitrogen 2, oxygen 5. So again, to find the percent, you have to find the molar mass before. So here we multiply, since we have 2 times the mass of nitrogen, and 5, because you have 5 oxygens, times the mass, 1 single oxygen. So then you add this whole thing, and that will give you 108.009. And in this case, we're going to use the mass of nitrogen, because that is the element they're asking us to find here. So we're going to divide that mass of that specific element over the total mass, and then multiply times 100. And we're gonna get something like 12.97. But remember that when we're asked for the percent, you're gonna have to round that to pretty much at 100. So that'll be 13%. Now, if they're asking for oxygen right here instead of nitrogen, then this would change to a 15.99, and we would get a whole different answer. Now, if we are trying to find the types of different chemical reactions that exist, so we have 4 different types of them. So first, actually 5 of them. So first you have synthesis. And how I think of this is kind of synthesis just means to kind of to create, to make, to put together. So if you have the different elements, they both are going to come together. If you have decomposition, they're going to kind of break down from each other. So decompose, kind of like food decomposing, it's breaking down. So here both are breaking down. Now you have single displacement. work, how I view this is you have one element in one compound, and if you see the order is being switched a little bit. So that's kind of how I see it. Then you have double displacement, where you have two different compounds. So here you have one compound and one element, and here you have two compounds. And the order again is being switched up a little bit, so that's how you kind of recognize it. Now combustion, it's pretty clear to tell apart, but here you're always going to have oxygen as one of the reactants, and carbon dioxide and water are more than likely going to be the products. But this is kind of like, just if you look just at the way they are being put together, that's how you kind of determine it. And you might have this kind of symbols in the exam tomorrow. So one dot represents an atom. This little 3 dots and one big dot in the middle represents a compound. And the 2 dots represent a molecule. Just so you remember this in case they come out tomorrow. And lastly, but definitely not least, the pH, the acidity alkaline kind of formulas. So I was told just to study this one because it'll likely appear in the exam. So definitely know this one for sure, which is the pH plus pOH equals 14. So if we're asked like a problem like a solution has a pOH of 11.76, what is the pH? So since we're given the pOH, we're going to put this number in here, and then pretty much just do the typical kind of solution where you subtract both sides and you end up with pH, and that's kind of how you end up with that. Aside from that, you probably have more to study besides that, unfortunately, but there's not much time, so get to study, and thanks for watching.